By now, we've all heard the name Sam Bankman-Fried. He quickly became the poster child for success in the crypto world. But while he promoted himself as a genius, there was something else going on behind the doors. There were signs all around for the trouble that was coming our way. But we only realized it once it was too late. In this video, let's catch you up with the crypto wonder child Sam Bankman-Fried. Starting off with FTX and the horrors backstage. The entire drama started when two of the most prominent departments in the U.S. got involved in this mess. Reports claim that both the Department of Justice and the Securities and Exchange Commission had started examining the firm for mischievous demeanor. And it wasn't just that. Sirens started ringing when the Securities Commission of Bahamas froze all assets in the name of FTX digital assets. This was a huge blow for the self-proclaimed trailblazer of the effective altruism movement. Not just that, but he was also hailed as a crypto wonder child and savior because he has helped quite a few cryptocurrencies and Web 3.0 companies make it out of troubling times. What's now left of SBF is just tweeting on Twitter and trying to explain his situation. Too late, buddy, too late. Following up, the genius with the untied shoes, Bankman-Fried is the son of two Stanford academics. He worked at Jane Street until 2017 before moving out with his own research crypto hedge fund, Alameda. As we all know, it became FTX's market maker, and in turn, FTX became one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world. When things started to heat up in the Bitcoin and crypto world back in 2021, Bank-Fried came out to be one public intellectual who also happened to be a billionaire. The weirdest thing about him would be that he always appeared in shorts and a t-shirt or hoodie plus untied shoes. Now, we've already seen this pattern in so many more billionaires, but when it came to this 29-year-old, there was something else going on in his head. He was trying to position himself as this genius who couldn't be comprehended by venture capitalists. Not sure if he was able to sell his look, but he did succeed in gaining their trust eventually. Moving on to the question, was it all bad and fraudulent? There's no denying the fact that FTX and the team worked really hard to make a name for themselves. And with an alleged genius at the top, things were looking pretty good for everyone. We also can't deny how SBF helped a vast number of companies get out of trouble, or better yet, increase their impact, even if it was at the price of drowning everything else. Despite all that was done honestly, the company was a hollow shell after the crypto market had collapsed. In fact, the Forbes billionaire list entry for Bankman-Fried had already warned that his fortune was mostly the worth of FTX as well as his FTT tokens. The hints were all there, it's just that nobody ever looked hard enough. Next up, from being the savior to digging up the grave. Things were already going south for FTX, but then Binance played its trump card. That's exactly when the entire thing blew up. But here's where the damage exactly happened. After FTX realized that there was no way of getting out of the potential collapse, they decided to sell the company in hopes of preventing liquidity. To help them in doing so, Binance, one of its rivals, listened to the cries. As we saw, the CEO of Binance, Changpeng Zhao, announced that his company had decided to acquire FTX in a non-binding deal. This deal would include all of FTX's non-US businesses. While the deal was made public, there was no mention of the amount at which FTX was being sold, although it must be said that it would have been way lower than the $32 billion it was valued at the beginning of this year. So far so good, right? Except that just a day before the deal had to go through, Binance decided to back out of the deal. According to them, there was no way that FTX could survive or make it out of the mess that it had landed in. Following up, as Binance backed out, so did everyone else. Bankman-Fried had a wonderful relationship with all of his investors in the companies that he was backing. Unfortunately, though, none of that remains today. To be completely fair, the investigation launched against FTX and SBF is actually more concerned about the relationships that were developed. These primarily include the possibility of FTX using customers' deposits to fund their trades and bets at the Bankman-Fried hedge fund. Not just that, SBF's holier-than-thou approach toward spending makes no sense, at least to the people who have been robbed of their capital. If proven, this violation would be criminal to say the least, and surprisingly, it's a 360 from what SBF was known as initially. finally, with the US gone, it's now time for Europe. In another blow to the company, FTX recently got its license canceled in Cyprus by the jurisdiction securities regulator. This is directly related to the liquidity issue that the company was facing. In an attempt to curb the effects, FTX had to have a withdrawal freeze. Not a problem, except that it gets your license suspended. This is quite possibly one of the biggest losses for the crypto exchange because it allowed the company to spread its wings in the whole European economic area. The approval isn't even that old. The Cyprus Securities and Exchange Commission granted the license to FTX this past March. That's how long it took for everything to go from the top of the hill to straight down in the dirt. Moving on, the CEO of FTX is fearing a risk involving his philanthropy after the company has declared bankruptcy. Starting off with the most generous billionaire? Really? Bankman-Fried was one of the most talked about guys in the world of Web3. It wasn't just because of his genius to make something like FTX, but also given he gave away a lot of his wealth. SBF was known as one of the biggest supporters of the altruism movement. In an attempt to fuel its effects, he made donations to a vast number of projects that aimed to have a huge impact on the maximum number of people. Bankman-Fried also once said that the reason for him wanting to get rich wasn't that he liked money, but because he wanted to give it away to charity. Right. So technically, he was so invested in helping people that he gave away other people's money to the causes he found interesting. Maybe we can start calling him the modern-day Robin Hood with a twist. Coming up next, was SBF too good for the world? As things go south for SBF, hundreds of people have come out trying to give their opinions on what they think could be the reason for the downfall. One group of these people rightly thinks that it could be possible that FTX was a little too good to be true. Their approach to handling donations was impractical to say the least, but that's saying if and only if SBF gets out of this mess without being charged with something via agencies that are actively investigating the matter. To further back this theory, Facebook co-founder Dustin Moskovitz jumped in to give his opinion as well. He believed that Bankman-Fried's overambitiousness with effective altruism made him take unethical steps. Surprisingly, if true, it goes completely against what SBF aimed to do in the first place. He's also been accused of misusing customer funds so much so that the company has now filed for bankruptcy, although he did mention in a Twitter thread that they were loaded enough to return customers' money. But what happened then? Only God knows. Finally, as FTX turned to dirt, what about the companies that were involved with it? In the post-tragedy phase, crypto companies are now bracing for the impact that FTX's failure will cause them. A lot of them have taken their investments away, while some may be stuck unwantedly. To start things off, Binance was the first company to part ways from FTX. In fact, it was Binance's backing out of acquiring FTX that brought the company's shady activities into the limelight. But they're not the only people looking to step away from having anything to do with FTX. BlockFi, for example, had a lot of involvement with the company. In July, FTX signed a deal to help out BlockFi by providing a $400 million revolving credit facility. In all this trouble, a lot of BlockFi's withdrawals have now been paused. Similarly, Coinbase announced it had $15 million worth of deposits on FTX. Not sure how they plan on taking care of those, but they sure would want to. In addition to that, we have CoinShares and even Crypto.com, both of which had huge amounts of capital in FTX. And not just that, we have a huge number of other companies as well that have had exposure to SBF's crypto craze. Silvergate Capital Corp, Kraken, Galois Capital, and Voyager Digital are only some of those affected by this tragedy and are now looking to find solutions to the losses that they now have to face. Well, that's a wrap for this video. Do you still see SBF as the wonder child? Let us know in the comments below, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. We'll see you in the next one.